It was supposed to be just another carefree summer afternoon. The sun filtered softly through the thick canopy of pine trees that surrounded the Monroe family's home in northern Maine, casting golden beams across the mossy forest floor. The air was warm, sweet with the scent of wildflowers and pine resin, alive with the sounds of buzzing cicadas and birdsong. For 11-year-old Nathan Monroe and his 7-year-old sister Emily, it was the perfect day to play their favorite game, hide and seek. Nathan counted out loud, eyes covered, while Emily darted into the woods with her recorder in hand. It was a simple game, one they'd played dozens of times before. Emily had recently taken to carrying a small cassette recorder with her everywhere, inspired by Nathan's love for recording funny voices and sounds. She liked pretending it was part of the game, a secret mission, or an invisible trail she could follow home. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Nathan's voice rang through the trees. Their house sat just on the edge of the forest, isolated but cozy, nestled in the heart of a vast wooded expanse that had always felt like a living, breathing presence in their lives. The Monroes loved it. Sarah and James found peace in the seclusion, and the children thrived in the endless nature that surrounded them. Emily especially loved it here. She said the woods whispered stories if you listened closely enough. 30 Mississippi. Ready or not, here I come. Nathan opened his eyes and grinned, the thrill of the chase warming his chest. He knew all of Emily's favorite hiding spots, under the old canoe, behind the rock pile near the creek, inside the hollow tree trunk they'd dubbed the fairy portal. He walked confidently into the woods, calling her name between bursts of laughter. But the minutes stretched. His playful tone turned questioning, then anxious. Emily? Silence. Nathan's smile faded as he combed through every hiding place they'd ever used. He shouted louder. Still no answer, only the sound of the wind rustling through the leaves and the distant caw of a crow overhead. Emily! By the time he ran back to the house to tell his parents, panic was rising like a tide he couldn't stop. Sarah and James moved fast, faster than he'd ever seen them. His mother's face went pale, her hands trembling. His father grabbed his keys and raced into the woods while dialing 911. That was when the nightmare began. Search teams arrived within the hour. Local deputies, volunteers, dogs, helicopters, everyone in town showed up to help. They scoured every inch of the forest for days, but Emily had vanished without a trace. No footprints, no signs of struggle, no dropped items. Nothing but the eerie stillness of the woods and the sound of Nathan's own guilt echoing back at him. He kept thinking of her giggle, the way she'd waved the recorder in his face earlier that morning, saying, "This time I'll win, you won't find me." But he hadn't, he never did. And now all that remained was silence. If stories like this send chills down your spine, don't forget to subscribe for more mysterious tales that stay with you long after the screen fades to black. Emily Monroe was gone, just like that. And Nathan, he was never the same again. The woods came alive that night, not with laughter or birdsong, but with voices calling a name over and over again. Emily! Emily! Echoed under the trees, shouted by volunteers, whispered by parents trembling with dread. Searchlights cut through the dark like swords, flickering across branches and brush, as if trying to peel back the forest's secrets. The air turned thick with tension. Every crack of a twig sounded like hope. Every silence afterward felt like defeat. They searched for 3 days without rest. Police officers marked grids across the woods. Neighbors from miles around joined the effort. Bloodhounds sniffed every path, every clearing. Helicopters hovered overhead, their spotlights sweeping the landscape like watchful eyes. But the woods gave nothing. Not a footprint, not a scrap of clothing, not even a hint of where a child might have gone. The Monroe family's backyard transformed into a base camp. Tents, radios, coffee brewing non-stop. James Monroe never left the edge of the woods. He paced, he shouted, he pleaded with officers to let him go deeper, further. He swore he heard her voice once, just past the ridge, but no one else did. Sarah stopped eating. Her eyes became glassy, fixed always on the tree line, waiting for her daughter to come running out laughing, saying it was all just a game. But that never happened. As the days stretched into a week, news vans parked along the gravel road leading to their home. Reporters hounded the family, framing the story with all the drama they could conjure. Missing girl baffles search teams. Hide and seek turns into horror. They speculated endlessly. Some pointed fingers at neighbors, others whispered about wild animals or stranger dangers lurking in small towns. Nathan watched it all unfold through the cracks in the blinds. He didn't speak much after the first night. His voice had gone raw from yelling, then silent from shock. He didn't sleep, didn't eat. He just sat with his arms wrapped around his knees, rocking gently, repeating a single phrase in his mind. I should have found her. I should have found her. He remembered the last thing Emily said to him before she ran off into the woods. This time I'll win. What kind of victory was that? The police asked him questions again and again. Where exactly was she hiding? Did she say anything strange? Did you see anyone else? But he could barely remember his own name in those moments, let alone the precise order of events. They told his parents it wasn't his fault. He was just a kid. Kids play. Kids lose track of time. But Nathan knew the truth. She'd trusted him to find her. She believed the game was safe because he was there, and he failed her. The worst part was the silence, not just from the woods but from the world around him. After 2 weeks, the search scaled down. After a month, the police stopped the daily visits. The media left. The neighbors stopped bringing casseroles. The world moved on. But Emily hadn't come back, and Nathan still couldn't breathe without feeling like he was drowning in guilt. At night, he'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, imagining the forest out there in the dark. He pictured Emily, small and scared, hiding behind a tree, waiting for her brother to come find her, and she never stopped waiting. The house changed too. The once warm and busy home turned quiet and cold. Sarah began spending more time on the computer, scrolling endlessly through missing person forums and conspiracy blogs. James became short-tempered, constantly at odds with police for giving up too soon. They tried to keep Nathan in school, tried therapy, tried distractions. Nothing worked. One day, Nathan stood at the edge of the woods alone. His feet refused to take a single step inside. He listened just in case, just to be sure. But there was nothing, not even birds. Emily Monroe was gone, and the forest would never give her back. Time moved forward, even when the Monroe family didn't. The seasons turned, the trees grew taller. The house, once filled with laughter and movement, became silent and still. People in town stopped mentioning Emily's name, not because they forgot, but because it hurt too much to remember. It became an unspoken rule: don't bring it up, don't reopen old wounds, don't remind the family of what they lost. Nathan grew older, but the weight he carried never lightened. At 16, he barely spoke. He kept his head down at school, avoiding questions, avoiding people. His parents were ghosts of themselves. Sarah spent nights glued to her laptop, joining every forum she could find about missing persons, unsolved disappearances, and the supernatural. She printed articles, maps, theories. Their dining room became a wall of unanswered questions. James turned to alcohol. He wasn't violent, but he was no longer present. He'd sit on the porch, staring at the trees with a bottle in his hand, muttering things under his breath. The spark in his eyes had long gone out. The house was filled with the kind of silence that shouted. No one knew what to say anymore. Nathan's only refuge was sound. When he turned 17, he saved up for a simple audio recorder. Not because he liked music, he didn't even own headphones. But he was obsessed with capturing the world around him, as if the right sound might somehow explain everything. He'd sit for hours recording nothing but static, forest wind, the hum of machines. He told himself it was for a school project, but he knew the truth. He was listening for her. By 18, he left Maine for college in New York City. Audio engineering became his major. He told his professors it was the science that fascinated him, the way sound could bend, distort, reveal things you couldn't see. But deep down, he was still that 11-year-old boy, chasing a whisper that vanished into the woods. He rarely visited home. When he did, the tension was unbearable. His mother barely looked up from her computer. His father slept on the couch. The forest always loomed just outside the windows, watching. He stayed for a night or two, then left again, each time more certain he'd never come back for good. Then, during spring break of his junior year, Nathan returned to clear out some of his childhood things. The attic was musty and cluttered, filled with boxes labeled in his mother's careful handwriting. Toys, books, old clothes. He wasn't sure what he was looking for. Closure, maybe, or something to throw away so it didn't haunt the house anymore. He opened a box marked Games. Inside were board pieces, plastic tokens, a few action figures, and buried beneath it all, dusty and forgotten, was a small handheld cassette recorder. His breath caught. He hadn't seen it in years. It was the same one Emily used to carry during their games. Bright red plastic, worn buttons, a little sticker on the side that read, "Property of Emily M." in shaky handwriting. It was scratched and faded, but intact. Hands trembling, he popped in the old tape still inside. The label was smeared. He didn't expect anything. Probably silence, static, maybe their old voices playing tag. But curiosity burned hotter than fear. He brought it back to his dorm and set it on the desk. He cleaned the tape head carefully. Then, slowly, he pressed play. At first, there was nothing. Just a faint hiss of static, a distant chirp. Birds, maybe. Then a sudden burst of laughter. His own voice. "Okay, Emily, count to 30. Her giggle followed, sweet and high-pitched. "You'll never find me." He listened, heart pounding. Their voices faded in and out, muffled by leaves, distance, maybe time. Then silence. Long, thick, pressing silence. He waited. His eyes stayed fixed on the tape. The reel turned. Then, barely audible, a whisper. "Found me." The voice was wrong. It wasn't 7-year-old Emily. It was older, soft, breathy. As if it had come from far away or through something. Nathan froze. That was her voice, but not from the past. It was recent. Nathan replayed the tape 3 times that night. Each time he heard the same thing. Laughter, running, silence, and then that whisper, impossibly clear. "Found me." He sat frozen, his fingers clenched tight around the recorder. It didn't make sense. The voice wasn't childlike. It wasn't recorded during that long-ago afternoon in the woods. He knew Emily's voice better than anyone. And this was Emily, but older. He ran a spectral analysis using software from his audio engineering class, not expecting much. Maybe interference, maybe a glitch in the tape, something, but what he saw made his stomach drop. The waveform at the end was different. The frequency, pitch, and noise floor suggested it had been recorded recently, years after the rest of the tape. It didn't belong with the earlier audio. Nathan stared at the screen in disbelief. How could that be possible? Who would have tampered with a children's recorder from 10 years ago? No one else even knew it existed. Unless it wasn't tampered with at all. His hands trembled as he emailed the file to his friend Theo, a graduate student in acoustic forensics. He asked him to analyze it without explanation, just needing someone else to confirm he wasn't going crazy. Then he waited, heart pounding with each passing hour. Sleep didn't come that night. He lay in bed replaying every memory he had of Emily, her laugh, her obsession with secrets and mystery, the way she'd whisper clues into that very recorder like she was part of a bigger game only she understood. The next day, Theo called. "Dude, what is this?" Nathan's voice cracked. "Just tell me what you found." Theo hesitated. "It's weird. The last 2 seconds are spliced in. Well, no, that's not the right word. It's the same tape, same physical medium, but the frequencies are modern, like real recent. Within a year, I'd guess." Nathan's chest tightened. Could someone fake that? Not without digital editing, but there's no evidence of digital manipulation. It's analog all the way through, just out of time. Out of time. Nathan hung up, pacing his dorm room like a caged animal. His thoughts spun wild. There had to be a rational explanation, some fluke of magnetic distortion or environmental interference. But none of that would explain the voice being her voice. Older, clearer, whispering those words as if she were still waiting. "Found me." 2 words. That's all it took to unravel everything he'd spent a decade trying to bury. He listened again, this time with headphones, eyes closed. And then something new happened. Just before the whisper, there was a faint sound. A thud, maybe, or a breath. Something behind the voice. It wasn't there before, or maybe he'd been too focused to notice. He enhanced the volume, filtering out the static, isolating the low frequencies. It was a second voice, not words, just a sound, a low, guttural tone, almost like a growl. Nathan ripped off the headphones, his pulse racing. He didn't know what he was dealing with, but he knew one thing for sure. He had to go back. Back to Maine, back to the woods, back to where it all began. He arrived 3 days later. The drive from New York was long, grueling, filled with second-guessing and dread. His mother was shocked to see him, her eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. James barely looked up from his chair on the porch. The house was unchanged, frozen in time like a photograph that had started to fade around the edges. Nathan didn't unpack. He didn't explain. He just told them he needed to find something and headed toward the attic. He found more old tapes, dusty and unused, but none had anything unusual. Still, he felt compelled to keep looking. Not just in the attic, not just in the house. The forest was waiting. That evening, recorder in hand, he stood at the edge of the woods, the same place he had 10 years ago. The trees hadn't changed. The trailhead still curved to the left, overgrown but familiar. He hadn't stepped into those shadows since the day Emily disappeared. The sun was setting. Orange light bled through the branches like spilled paint. The air smelled the same: pine, soil, faint traces of damp moss. And yet everything felt different, heavier. He pressed record. "Emily," he called out, his voice barely above a whisper. "If you can hear me, I'm here." The tape hissed. The woods answered with silence, but Nathan wasn't giving up. Not this time. The static played back that night, same as before. The hiss, the rustle, the faint laughter, and then her voice, unmistakable. "Found me." Nathan sat in his childhood bedroom, lights off, recorder on the desk. He stared at the small device like it might answer his questions. His heart pounded in slow, deliberate beats. He couldn't stop thinking about what Theo had said. Recent. No splicing. The audio was real. But if it was real, where did it come from? He needed to know. He emailed Theo again, this time sending the full original file and asking for one thing: a trace. Could he triangulate the audio source, match ambient background signatures? Anything that might narrow down where it was recorded. Theo didn't respond until the next afternoon. "You're not going to like this," his message began. Nathan's palms broke into a sweat. Theo had run it through several filters: background noise analysis, environmental matching, even comparing wind and frequency profiles from archived meteorological data. He said it wasn't perfect, but based on the spectrum of bird calls faintly caught in the original tape and the exact tonal pitch of the tree frogs in the background, he believed the location was within a 1-mile radius of the Monroe property. Specifically, the woods. Nathan felt his breath catch. It wasn't some strange trick. Not a fake. Not an interference or artifact. The voice had been recorded recently, and locally. He read Theo's message over and over. Then he packed a backpack with a flashlight, his laptop, extra batteries, and the recorder. He didn't tell his parents. He didn't ask permission. That evening, with dusk crawling across the sky and the wind picking up through the pines, he stepped back into the forest. He followed no trail, just instinct. And memory. Every tree, every stump, every twisted root was familiar and foreign all at once. The place where he'd played 1,000 times now felt like it watched him. There was something unnatural about the silence. It wasn't the absence of sound, it was the weight of it, like the forest was holding its breath. He walked for nearly an hour, stopping every 100 yards to press record and softly speak into the device. "Emily, it's Nathan. I heard you. Please, if you're there, say something." He'd wait. Listen. Rewind. Nothing. He kept going deeper. By the time the sun had fully disappeared, Nathan stood in a part of the woods he barely remembered. The trees here were thicker, the air colder. Moonlight filtered through the canopy in broken patches. He checked the recorder again. Static, his own voice. Then, a faint hum. He froze. He hadn't heard it in person. But it was there, on the tape. Low, rhythmic, like a mechanical vibration beneath the earth. He played it back again, still there, but only on the tape. He turned in a slow circle, heart thudding. The forest remained silent. Then he saw it, a flash of pink, tied to a tree branch fluttering gently in the wind. A ribbon, Emily's ribbon, the one she'd worn that day, the one from the photograph they used on every missing persons poster. It hadn't faded. It looked untouched by time, vibrant, smooth, like it had just been tied yesterday. Nathan stared in disbelief. He didn't know how long he stood there. The woods pressed closer around him, as if holding him in place. He reached out slowly, fingers trembling, and took the ribbon. Suddenly, the recorder in his other hand clicked. No buttons pressed, just clicked. Then it began to play. Nathan didn't touch anything, didn't speak, but the recorder hissed to life, and from within the static, a voice broke through. His own voice. "Emily, please, if you're there." Then another voice, fainter, higher. "Nathan." He dropped the recorder. Something had changed. She wasn't just a memory anymore. She was answering. The next morning, Nathan stood at the edge of the woods again, staring into the dense thicket like it might part for him. In his hand, he clutched the pink ribbon, now neatly folded. The recorder sat in his pocket, its presence heavy like a loaded weapon he didn't understand. He hadn't told his parents about what happened the night before. Not yet. He barely believed it himself. He hadn't imagined her voice. It was there, faint but real, buried beneath the static. That one word, Nathan. Fragile, uncertain, like she didn't know where she was, or when. He had to go back. This time he went prepared. Food, water, extra batteries, compass, phone. Not that the phone had service out here, but it gave him the illusion of connection. What he didn't pack was a plan, because how do you plan for the impossible? The trees grew thicker the deeper he walked. What used to be childhood trails were now overtaken by brambles and moss. Nature had reclaimed everything. But there were moments, just flashes, when something felt familiar. A stump shaped like a cat's back, a crooked tree with a hollow knot, ghosts of old hiding spots. As the light began to fade, Nathan realized how easy it would be to get lost here. The forest had a way of folding in on itself. He stopped to catch his breath and pulled out the recorder. The red plastic felt warm against his skin. He hit record. "Emily," he whispered, voice steady. "I found your ribbon. I heard you. Please, where are you?" He waited. A breeze rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of wet earth and pine needles. The silence pressed down again, thicker this time. He played it back. At first, just static. Then, a soft hum. The same low, rhythmic sound from before. Then, barely audible, her voice again. "You're close." Nathan's knees buckled slightly. He leaned against a tree, pulse thundering in his ears. "You're close." The voice wasn't panicked. It was calm, hopeful even. He looked around, nothing but trees. But something felt different now, like the forest had shifted slightly on its axis, like he wasn't alone. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Nathan knew he had to stay. He hadn't come this far to turn back. He built a small fire in a clearing and sat beside it, knees drawn up, recorder on the ground between his feet. The woods were darker than he remembered, an unnatural kind of black, where even the stars seemed reluctant to shine. Every snap of a twig made him flinch. But he stayed, waiting. At some point during the night, he heard something that wasn't the forest. Laughter, not echoing or distant, nearby. A child's laugh, light, fleeting. Emily's laugh. He stood, flashlight sweeping through the trees. "Emily?" No answer. Only that same giggle again, just beyond the edge of light. He chased it. Branches slapped his arms, roots tugged at his feet. The laugh moved in circles, always a few steps ahead, always out of reach. Then suddenly silence. Nathan stopped, chest heaving. He turned in a full circle, but nothing looked familiar. The trees were taller here, impossibly tall, their trunks smooth and black. The air smelled metallic, wrong. He felt dizzy, like the ground tilted beneath him. He pulled out the recorder. This time he didn't speak. He just pressed record and listened. And there it was again, not just her voice, something else. Words, not his. From the recorder, a whisper, "Don't stop now." His mouth went dry. He turned slowly, and in the faint moonlight he saw something he hadn't seen before. Footprints, small, bare, pressed into the soft earth, leading away from him, deeper still. He followed. The deeper he went, the more distorted everything became. The air grew colder, colors faded, and the forest began to feel hollow, like the shell of something that had once been alive. His flashlight flickered, then died. Darkness swallowed him. The only light now came from the faint red glow of the recorder, which clicked on again, all by itself. Then her voice. "This way." Nathan stepped forward. Whatever this place was, it wasn't just forest anymore. Nathan walked through the hollow forest, each step swallowed by the mossy ground beneath him. The temperature dropped with every yard, the silence deepening into something suffocating. He couldn't hear the wind anymore. Not even his own breathing felt real. Time had lost its rhythm. The recorder flickered in his hand. Red light pulsed faintly, guiding him forward. He didn't question it anymore. He followed the footprints, still visible, impossibly preserved, like the earth remembered her. Then, in the distance, a shape emerged between the trees. A cabin, old, sunken, wrapped in ivy and darkness. The roof sagged, the door hung crooked on one hinge. It looked like it had been abandoned for decades, yet faint light seeped through the cracks in the wood. Nathan approached slowly, heart pounding. Before he reached the steps, a figure appeared from behind the corner of the structure. Not Emily, an old man. His beard was grey and unkempt. His eyes were sharp, though clouded by something that looked more like knowing than madness. He held a lantern, and in the flicker of flame, Nathan saw carvings etched into the bark of nearby trees, symbols, spirals, runes he couldn't understand. The man didn't speak for a long time. He just looked Nathan over, nodding slowly. "You came," he finally said. Nathan opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "She's not gone," the man added. "Not completely." Nathan stepped forward. "You know about Emily?" The man looked past him toward the trees. "They don't take without reason." Nathan blinked. "Who?" The man didn't answer. Instead, he walked toward the door of the cabin and pushed it open. "Come in, before they notice you." Inside, the air was heavy with herbs and smoke. Shelves lined with jars filled the walls. Dried plants, bones, feathers, stones. In the corner sat a reel-to-reel recorder, larger than anything Nathan had ever seen. It whirred softly, though no one had touched it. "You've heard her," the man said, sitting on a worn chair. "That means she's close." Nathan's voice finally returned. "I don't understand. Is she alive?" The old man didn't blink. "Not like you. Not anymore. She's in the in-between." Nathan's head spun. "What is this place?" "A threshold," the man said simply. "The forest remembers what the world forgets. It keeps what's lost, sometimes longer than it should." Nathan took a shaky breath. "How do I reach her?" The man studied him, then pointed to the recorder. "She's reaching you through sound. That's how the veil thins. But she's not strong enough alone. I have to help her. You have to call her." Nathan sat on the floor, pulling his recorder into his lap. "What do I say?" "Not words," the man said. "Sound, rhythm, echo. Play her voice. Let her know you're still looking." Nathan nodded slowly, then pressed the button. "Emily?" "It's me. I never stopped." He played the tape. Her voice responded. "This way." The cabin shook. The walls groaned. The lanterns flickered. Nathan felt something shift in the air, like the forest itself had turned to listen. "She's close," the man said again, more urgent this time. "But they'll come for you too. If you open that door, you don't come back unchanged. I don't care. The man nodded once, grimly. Nathan connected the recorder to the reel-to-reel with a patch cable. The machines hummed in harmony. Feedback pulsed through the room. And then, her voice, louder this time, clearer. "Nathan, I see you." He looked up, eyes stinging. "I'm here," he shouted. "Emily, I'm here." And then, silence. The machines stopped. The air grew still. Nathan turned to the man. "What happened?" "She heard you." Now she's trying to answer. Nathan stood. "Then what do I do now?" The man handed him a fresh tape. "You go back out there, play her voice, let her find the path." "To where?" The man's expression darkened. "To you." Nathan stepped outside again, the recorder now heavier in his grip. The forest had changed again. The trees were closer. The trail behind him was gone. The only way was forward. He pressed play. Emily's voice echoed through the woods. "Nathan!" He walked toward it, toward her. Nathan followed her voice deeper into the trees, but this wasn't the forest he remembered. Everything around him shimmered like heat, rising off pavement, distorting light and space. His footsteps made no sound. Even the wind, which had once whispered warnings through the leaves, had gone silent. Each time her voice echoed, "This way." It came from a different direction, impossible to track. Yet he moved forward, pulled by something stronger than logic. It was instinct. It was her. He came upon a clearing he didn't recognize. The trees encircled it like walls, their trunks twisted, branches reaching inward like frozen fingers. At the center stood a circle of stones, covered in moss and lichen with symbols etched into their surfaces. The ground here felt wrong, hollow, as if he stood on the skin of something sleeping underneath. He stepped into the circle. Immediately, a chill swept over him. The air thickened, vibrating with low frequencies only his bones could hear. The recorder clicked on by itself. "Nathan!" Her voice again, this time behind him. He turned fast, and there she was. Emily. Not a memory, not a dream. She stood just outside the circle, pale and barefoot, her hair longer, her face older than when he'd last seen her, but unmistakably his sister. Her eyes shimmered with recognition, but also sorrow, as if she'd waited too long for this moment and was afraid it wouldn't last. "Emily?" he whispered. She nodded slowly, eyes wide with emotion. "I knew you'd find me," she said, voice fragile, echoing unnaturally. He stepped forward, but she raised a hand. "No, stay inside." "Why? What is this place?" She looked around, as if something else might be listening. "A door," she said softly. "It opened when I hid. It wouldn't let me leave." His mind raced. "How did you survive? Where have you been?" "I don't know," she said. "Time's different here. I tried to come back, but it kept me between." "Kept you?" Her face